What you experience in your life is a direct reflection of who you are being on a daily basis, not what you hope for in quiet moments or wish for when things feel difficult. Desires live in the imagination, but identity lives in behavior, and behavior is what the world responds to. You can want success, peace, confidence, or abundance with every fiber of your being, but if your daily actions are not aligned with those outcomes, life will continue to deliver results that match your current patterns. Identity is formed through repetition, not intention. Every choice you make, especially the small ones that seem insignificant, is reinforcing a version of yourself. When you consistently act with discipline, responsibility, and focus, you are signaling to life that you are someone who produces results. When you repeatedly delay, avoid, or make excuses, you are signaling something very different, regardless of how strong your desires may be. Daily behavior is the language through which identity speaks. You cannot claim to be committed while constantly negotiating with discomfort. You cannot expect growth while choosing convenience. The way you manage your time, your energy, and your attention reveals who you truly are. And that truth determines what you attract into your life. Intentions feel powerful because they are emotionally satisfying, but they do not carry weight without execution. Saying you want more does not challenge you. Acting differently does. Life rewards what you practice, not what you promise. Every day you repeat the same actions, you are casting a vote for the same results, even if you are hoping for something new. Your environment responds to consistency, not sincerity. You may sincerely want change, but sincerity does not create momentum. Consistent behavior does. When your actions remain unchanged, your results remain familiar because the system of your life is operating exactly as designed by your habits. Identity determines standards, and standards determine behavior. If your identity allows procrastination, inconsistency, or self-doubt, those traits will show up in your outcomes. If your identity demands excellence, preparation, and follow-through, those qualities will naturally shape your results without constant motivation. The gap between what people want and what they receive is almost always found in their daily routines. Success is not hiding from anyone. It is responding to those who show up in a way that aligns with it. When your behavior reflects focus, discipline, and persistence, opportunities begin to appear that were always there but previously inaccessible. You become what you repeatedly do, not what you occasionally intend. A single burst of effort does not redefine identity, but sustained action does. Over time, behavior hardens into character, and character becomes destiny, shaping relationships, income, confidence, and fulfillment. Most frustration comes from expecting identity-level rewards while living with intention-level effort. Wanting something deeply does not entitle you to it. Life requires alignment, and alignment is built through daily choices that reflect who you are becoming rather than who you wish you were. When you shift your behavior, you shift your identity, and when your identity shifts, the outcomes you attract must change to match the new pattern you are consistently demonstrating. Results change only when personal standards, habits, and thinking patterns change. Expand it, and don't add any ending sentence and make it lengthy in 10 paragraphs without heading and conclusion. Results never change by accident, and they rarely change through wishful thinking or temporary motivation. They change when the internal framework that governs behavior is upgraded. Personal standards define what you accept from yourself, habits determine how you operate each day, and thinking patterns shape how you interpret challenges and opportunities. When these three remain the same, outcomes remain predictable, no matter how strongly you desire something different. Personal standards act as invisible boundaries that control your behavior. They determine what feels normal, what feels unacceptable, and what you're willing to tolerate. If your standards allow inconsistency, late effort, or half-hearted execution, your results will reflect that permission. Raising your standards forces you to show up differently even when no one is watching. Habits are the physical expression of those standards in motion. They are the repeated actions that quietly shape your life over time. One disciplined habit practiced daily will outperform moments of intense effort followed by long periods of inactivity. When habits remain unchanged, progress feels slow or non-existent because the system driving your behavior is still producing the same outputs. Thinking patterns influence how you respond to pressure, failure, and uncertainty. If your default thinking avoids responsibility or seeks comfort, your actions will follow that direction. When your thinking shifts toward ownership, growth, and long-term perspective, your behavior begins to align with higher outcomes without constant internal resistance. Many people attempt to change results by working harder without changing how they think. This creates burnout rather than transformation. Effort applied through outdated thinking patterns only reinforces the same limitations in a different form. Real progress begins when effort is guided by a mindset that supports expansion rather than survival. Standards, habits, and thinking patterns operate together as a system. Changing one without addressing the others leads to temporary improvement, but not lasting change. When standards rise, habits must adapt. When thinking evolves, behavior naturally follows. Alignment between these elements is what creates momentum. Comfort is the biggest enemy of change because it protects old standards and familiar habits. Growth requires discomfort, not as punishment, but as proof that a new level is being reached. The moment discomfort becomes a signal for growth rather than retreat, results begin to shift in a meaningful way. Consistency matters more than intensity when it comes to transformation. Small upgrades in daily habits compound over time, but only if thinking patterns support patience and long-term focus. When you stop looking for instant results and commit to process, progress becomes inevitable. Your current results are not random. They are evidence of how you think, what you tolerate, and what you repeat. Every outcome is feedback, not failure. When you interpret results as information rather than judgment, you gain the power to make precise adjustments instead of emotional reactions. As standards rise, habits sharpen, and thinking patterns expand, results are forced to follow because the person producing them is no longer the same person who created the old outcomes. Wanting more is ineffective without becoming disciple. Yet, skilled and decisive, expand it, and don't add any ending sentence and make it lengthy in 10 paragraphs without heading and conclusion. Wanting more is one of the most common human experiences, yet it is also one of the most powerless when it stands alone. Desire creates awareness, but it does not create change. Many people live their lives emotionally attached to the idea of more, while remaining behaviorally committed to less. Without discipline, desire becomes frustration, because nothing forces action when motivation fades. Discipline is the structure that turns intention into reality. It is the ability to act consistently regardless of mood, comfort, or circumstances. When discipline is missing, effort becomes conditional and progress becomes optional. Life does not reward what you feel inspired to do occasionally. It rewards what you are willing to do repeatedly. Skill is the bridge between effort and effectiveness. You can want success deeply and work hard daily, but without developing the right skills, your effort produces limited results. Skill increases value, and value determines reward. The marketplace responds to competence, not cravings, and growth accelerates when learning becomes a daily priority. Discipline without skill leads to exhaustion, while skill without discipline leads to wasted potential. Both must exist together. Discipline keeps you showing up, and skill ensures that what you do when you show up actually works. When these two are aligned, progress stops feeling random and starts feeling predictable. Decisiveness is the multiplier that most people overlook. Indecision delays results and drains energy. Wanting more while hesitating creates internal conflict, where opportunity passes while you analyze. Decisive people move forward with imperfect information, trusting that clarity will come through action rather than waiting. Many PE. Opal confuse wanting more with deserving more. Wanting does not increase capacity. Becoming disciplined, skilled, and decisive does. Life responds to readiness. And readiness is demonstrated through preparation and execution, not longing. When preparation increases, opportunities begin to appear more frequently. Discipline trains you to keep promises to yourself. Skill equips you to deliver value. Decisiveness allows you to seize moments instead of watching them pass. Without these traits, desire becomes noise rather than direction, and ambition turns into anxiety instead of progress. Comfort is the silent enemy of becoming disciplined, skilled, and decisive. Comfort encourages delay, avoidance, and justification. Growth demands structure, learning, and bold action, often when it feels inconvenient. The willingness to sacrifice comfort determines how far desire can actually take you. The difference between people who advance and people who stay stuck is not the size of their dreams, but the strength of their habits. Disciplined habits compound skill, and practice skill increases confidence, making decisive action easier over time. Momentum builds when these qualities reinforce each other daily, when wanting more is supported by discipline that governs behavior, skill that increases value, and decisiveness that accelerates action. Desire stops being a wish and starts becoming a force that reshapes outcomes. What you tolerate in your life sets the ceiling for what you receive. Expand it, and don't add any ending sentence and make it lengthy in 10 paragraphs without heading and conclusion. What you tolerate quietly becomes the standard by which your life operates. Every time you accept behavior, conditions, or situations that drain you, you are communicating to yourself and to the world what you believe you are worth. Tolerance is not passive, it is a decision, and repeated decisions form the boundaries of your reality. When you tolerate inconsistency in your own actions, you limit your ability to create momentum. Excuses may feel justified in the moment, but they accumulate into patterns that cap progress. The ceiling on your results is often built from small allowances you make when discipline feels uncomfortable. Tolerating negative influences, whether in people or environments, slowly reshapes your mindset. You begin to normalize distractions, doubt, and mediocrity without realizing it. What once felt unacceptable gradually becomes familiar, and familiarity has a way of lowering expectations. Every area of life responds to standards. Relationships reflect what you permit emotionally. Finances reflect what you allow behaviorally. Growth reflects what you accept mentally. When low standards are tolerated in one area, they often spill into others, creating a cycle that is difficult to escape without conscious intervention. Discomfort is often a signal that a tolerance limit has been reached. Many people interpret discomfort as a warning to retreat, when it is actually an invitation to raise standards. Growth requires the courage to stop accommodating what no longer aligns with who you want to become. Tolerating delay is one of the most common ways people sabotage progress. When procrastination becomes acceptable, urgency disappears. Opportunities lose momentum and potential outcomes shrink, not because ability is lacking, but because action is postponed without consequence. Your internal dialogue is also something you either tolerate or challenge. Negative self-talk, doubt, and limiting beliefs act as invisible ceilings when left unexamined. When these thoughts go unchallenged, they quietly dictate behavior and reduce the scope of what feels possible. Raising tolerance for discomfort while lowering tolerance for mediocrity is a turning point. The moment you stop accepting what drains your energy and start demanding what supports growth, your decisions become clearer. Clarity increases when standards are enforced consistently. Boundaries are the practical expression of self-respect. Without boundaries, tolerance expands to fill every area of life, often at the expense of progress. When boundaries are established, energy is protected, focus improves, and results begin to reflect intentional living. As tolerance decreases for excuses, distractions, and low expectations, capacity increases for discipline, focus, and higher level outcomes, because the ceiling lifts only when what you allow changes. Consistent action and systems matter more than motivation or inspiration. Expand it and don't add any ending sentence and make it lengthy in 10 paragraphs without heading and conclusion. Motivation is emotional and temporary, rising and falling based on mood, environment, and circumstance. Inspiration can spark movement, but it cannot sustain it. When progress depends on how you feel, results become unpredictable. Consistent action removes emotion from the equation and replaces it with reliability, which is what long-term growth requires. Systems create structure where motivation cannot be trusted. A system is a set of planned behaviors that operate regardless of enthusiasm. When actions are systemized, progress continues even on difficult days. This is why people who rely on structure often outperform those who rely on passion alone. Consistent action compounds quietly. Small efforts repeated daily produce results that appear sudden but are built slowly over time. Motivation seeks immediate reward, while consistency is willing to invest without instant feedback. The willingness to act without visible results is what separates lasting progress from short-lived bursts of effort. Inspiration often arrives after action, not before it. Waiting to feel ready delays momentum. Systems remove the need for readiness by defining what must be done and when. When decisions are made in advance, energy is conserved for execution instead of debate. Consistency builds trust with yourself. Every time you follow through, confidence grows. Motivation may initiate action, but consistency strengthens identity. Over time, acting becomes automatic and resistance decreases because the behavior is no longer negotiable. Systems reduce friction. They simplify choices and eliminate unnecessary decision-making. When your environment supports your goals, discipline requires less effort. Structure makes the right action easier and the wrong action harder, allowing progress to continue even under pressure. Motivation focuses on intensity, but systems prioritize sustainability. Intensity burns out when life becomes demanding. Sustainable systems adapt to changing circumstances while maintaining forward motion. This adaptability is what allows progress to survive stress, fatigue, and uncertainty. Consistent action transforms effort into habit. Once behavior becomes habitual, it no longer depends on emotion. This is when progress accelerates, because energy is no longer spent convincing yourself to act. Action becomes the default response. Relying on inspiration creates gaps in execution. Systems close those gaps by ensuring action occurs regardless of external conditions. When consistency replaces waiting, momentum becomes stable rather than sporadic. Over time, systems and consistent action reshape identity, making progress inevitable because results follow structure, not emotion. Real transformation begins when you take responsibility and act before you feel ready. Expand it and don't add any ending sentence and make it lengthy in 10 paragraphs without heading and conclusion. Real tra. Information begins the moment responsibility replaces blame. As long as circumstances, people, or timing are held accountable for your situation, progress remains out of reach. Responsibility is not about guilt, it is about ownership. When you own your choices, your reactions, and your results, you reclaim the power to change them. Waiting to feel ready is one of the most common forms of delay. Readiness is often mistaken for confidence, clarity, or certainty, but those qualities are usually the result of action, not the prerequisite for it. When you wait for readiness, you postpone growth and reinforce hesitation as a habit. Acting before you feel ready requires courage, but courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward despite fear. Fear loses its grip when action begins because movement shifts focus from imagined outcomes to real effort. Progress starts when action interrupts overthinking. Responsibility means accepting that no one is coming to rescue you. This realization can feel heavy at first, but it is also freeing. When you stop waiting for permission or perfect conditions, you begin to create momentum from where you are with what you have. Transformation does not happen in dramatic moments of certainty. It happens in ordinary moments where you choose action over comfort. Each small act of responsibility strengthens your ability to take the next step, even when the path is unclear. Acting early builds resilience. Every time you move forward without feeling fully prepared, you train yourself to trust effort over emotion. This trust compounds, making future actions easier and hesitation weaker over time. Responsibility shifts focus from outcomes to process. Instead of asking whether something will work, you begin asking what action is required next. This mindset keeps you engaged with progress rather than paralyzed by possibility. Most people overestimate how ready they need to be and underestimate how much growth happens through action. Skills develop, confidence forms, and clarity emerges only after movement begins. Standing still never produces the information needed to move forward effectively. Taking responsibility also means accepting that mistakes are part of progress. Acting before you feel ready increases the likelihood of errors. But those errors become feedback rather than failure when responsibility is present. When responsibility is embraced and action becomes the response to uncertainty, transformation accelerates because progress favors those who move before comfort arrives.